This is Mishnah number 13. Mishnah number 13. One Mishnah before this. Very good. Rabbi Akiva said, Schok v'kalos rosh margilim la'erva. Too much joking around and lightheadedness, like I showed you yesterday in the Tanya, make a person, licentious. The people become lightheaded, they can do not nice sins. Mesoiras sayeg l'Torah, the teachings of the rabbis, the decrees that the rabbis made, make a fence around the Torah. Maisros, giving a tithe, 10% of your income or your produce. Sayeg la'osha, this will protect, this is a fence around your riches, your possessions. Nedarim, making oaths, to take an oath. I swear I will, you're not supposed to do it nowadays. You'll bring that down. But nevertheless, oaths, sayeg leprishos, this will keep a person away from doing bad things. Right? You say you want to make yourself a good holy Jew. So, but you always find that you're always saying lashon hora about people or things negative. You're always saying negative things. So make an oath. I swear to Hashem, I will never do this. But you're not supposed to do that nowadays. You're not supposed to take oaths nowadays, because if you break it, it's very bad. So if you do, say, bli neder from now on, without any neder from now on, I'm not going to say anything bad about anybody. Right? Bli neder. You have to say clearly that it's not a sayig lechach mashtika. An offense for wisdom is keeping quiet. Keeping quiet. Okay. And the keeping quiet has its values, and keeping quiet definitely has its downside. Its downside. The upside of keeping quiet is that, like it says, you don't get into a world of foolishness and say meaningless things. But on the other hand, people don't talk is they can hold grudges inside of themselves, and they can hate other people, and they can think bad things about other people, and it never comes out. Ideal, it says, Lo sisna tisnes achicha bilavavecha. You're not supposed to hate your brother in your heart. Hocheach tocheach as samitecha. So if you see somebody doing something wrong, you should take them aside and say, listen, I have this big problem. You do this thing, and I think that it's wrong. Explain to me why I am wrong. And sometimes the person will say, wow, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. I didn't realize I was doing that. But in any case, here it's talking about the other part, and we'll see what it means. Let's do, who is Rabbi Akiva? Rabbi Akiva haya ish ha'eshkolot. What do you mean eshkolot? Eshkolot are like bunches of grapes. He was a person like a what is it called? A bunch of grapes, a cluster of grapes. He was a cluster man. What does that mean? Isha call, he had everything in him. All of the good qualities, all of the good character traits, all of the types of wisdom. He learned the Kabbalah, he learned everything. Amazing. Rabbi Akiva. He stood up he had a lot of pupils. They dealt with the government. Call on Kain Omru, that the Rambam brings that the Rabbi Akiva, he thought that Bar Kochava he led all the wise men of that generation, that Bar Kochava was the Mashiach, because he had all the qualifications of Mashiach. From that, the Rambam learns that Mashiach doesn't have to do miracles. Doesn't have to do miracles. Okay, well, anyway, we'll talk about Mashiach later on. But Kain Omru, and also it says in Yerushalmi, Mishemes Yossi ben Yoezer, when Yossi ben Yoezer passed away, Batlo Eshkolot, there were no more people that were clusters, and there was people that had all of the good qualities and knew all of the wisdom of the Torah and of the world. V'lo amad Eshkol, and there was no such person until came Rabbi Akiva. Amnam lo yelo zechut avot. Rabbi Akiva did not come from a good family. Avol gadola me'od hayata zechut atzmo. says that Rabbi Akiva came from a very, very poor family. He was an ignoramus, a total ignoramus, until he was like 40 years old or whatever. But he was very great, and he had tremendous merit on his own. Shekain hoya eitz shetzamach metachta, because he was like a tree that came from him. Ubekochot atzmo hoya la'erez adir. On his own powers, he was like a huge cedar tree. Hoya neratz b'Torah. He was praised very highly in his lifetime on the Torah that he knew and on his wisdom. And his reputation went from one end of the world to the other. So it says in the Talmud, Yabamot. V'nikdash b'moto kiddush Hashem, and he died sanctifying God's name. He was one of the 10 tzaddikim that were killed tragically, terribly, tortured in public to death by the Romans. We read about it in the prayers of Yom Kippur, the Musaf prayer. Kiddushem Shemayim v'Torato, and he sanctified the name of heaven and Torah. Rabotenu Hamuvakim, his teachers were Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua. His teachers. V'kein Shimush Gam et Rabbi Nachum Ish Gamzu. V'hushpa Mishitaso b'Midrash Torah, and he also learned the way that Rabbi Nachum Ish Gamzu. What happened? Oh, you skipped. There's it. He would say riboy umiut. We said that Rabbi Yishmael, who used to argue with Rabbi Akiva, he was klal v'prat, and he would do riboy umiut. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi would monish v'cham shel chachamim, and he called to Rabbi Akiva Otzer Blom. He is a full storehouse. What is it? A silo full. Shekein dome u lepoel shenatla kuf soy v'yotza lechutz. He's like a worker that takes his basket and goes into the field to gather. He finds wheat, put it in the basket. He found barley, puts it in the basket. He finds kosmin. What's kosmin? Another type of thing. What is it? Kosmin is spelt or something. He puts that in the basket. Since when he came home with his basket full, then he separates the wheat on its own and the barley on its own. That's what Rabbi Akiva did. He learned the whole Torah, tabaot, like rings and rings. L'sugya. When we call the Torah also shalshelat echad, he took all the laws of the Torah and he separated them, but he interlocked them so that the whole entire Torah became one beautiful chain. And what do you want to call it? That chuliot, like a chain parts. Everything was interlocked one with the other. That's what Rabbi Akiva did. In this Mishnah, Rabbi Akiva is talking about 5 different sayagim, 5 different types of fences in order to keep a person far from sin. What are these 5 things? Let's look and see. Okay, Rabbi Akiva said, Schok kolos rosh. He said, joking around and being lightheaded, Schok v'leitzanas, joking around about everything, v'hitnagut shel kolot rosh, and being lightheaded, which you said in the Torah that in the Tanya, that this can be a very bad thing. Sometimes this is called the klippa of Palishtim. Palishtim, you don't take anything serious, a scoffer. Toch sichos betelos upitputei havelim. He's making all sorts of stupid jokes and comments and meaningless talking, right? Talking about, the politics and this arguing about sports. Now, sometimes these things, by the way, are necessary. Why are they necessary? Like sometimes people have Chabad houses, right? And the people that come to the Chabad house, they're talking about politics. You have to know what they're talking about, at least something. You have to be at least a little bit aware of what's happening. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he used to receive newspapers. It says that the his secretaries, they would take out things that were not necessary or that were negative, but he nevertheless he wanted to be, how do you say, informed what's going on. But to say meaningless things because of that, right, is unnecessary. But sometimes you have to do it in order to bring the conversation around to something. In general, being too lightheaded and being too frivolous is not good for the Torah. It's not good for you, but to be too heavy and not have any sense of humor is also not any good. This margilim le'erva, this brings to margilim, it's adam liyadei pritzus. This brings a person to, I say, to be licentious, to be decadence. Of a kovid rosh v'yira sayeg la'arayos. But it says a person who is serious, and if he has fear of God, this is the fence to arayos, to, how do you say, being loose sexually. Shekol ha-mashana b'sayegim, I'm sorry, Shekol Mishnah b'sayegim medaberes. This whole Mishnah is talking about different type of fences. Fences. Rabbi Akiva is saying, make a fence around wisdom, fence around your money, fence. Madua lo nakat Rabbi Akiva b'lashon zo. Why doesn't Rabbi Akiva take this language? Kederach shenakat b'shara dvorim. Shelo nemar kovid rosh v'yira. Eino ela sayeg. Why doesn't Rabbi Akiva say the same thing? Here, let's look at look back what he's saying. What does he say? Here. Oh, I'm sorry. Go back up. I'm sorry. I'm trying to scroll up. Go further here. Look what it says. Rabbi Akiva says, joking around and lightheadedness brings a person to sin. Right? All the rest he says, this is a fence for the Torah. This is a fence for riches. This is a fence for what do you want? Precious, for holding yourself back. This is a fence. Why over here does he say? Why doesn't he say over here seriousness is a fence, right, around chastity? That's a good thing. Why does he say negative here? Joking around will bring a person to do sins. Why doesn't he say that it's a fence? Why? So let's scroll down and we'll see. Scroll down. Oh, that's it. No. Too far. There it goes. Okay, here we go. That's good. Why doesn't Rabbi Akiva say that these things are a fence for, right? Says, he should have said, COVID rosh, being serious and having fear of God, right, is a fence to being, how do you say, to being a Chassid or something. So he says the reason is because, you have to go one line up. I'm sorry, one line up. Please, there it goes. Why? He says, why doesn't he say being serious and having fear, right, is a fence? Why not? Ve'ilu schok b'kalas rosh, but he says, I'll tell you why. Because to be very serious and to have fear of God, this not everyone can do. Not everyone can do. Only a person that really wants to be a Chassidic can do that. But joking around and being lightheaded and frivolous, every average person falls into this trap. Therefore, Rabbi Akiva is trying to tell us, Sheschok v'kalas rosh midat pechutotem. He's trying to tell us that, listen, everybody likes to joke around. It's not so bad, but you should know it's not a good thing. Maybe this can bring a person lower and lower, that he can totally cast off all good values. Therefore, you have to keep away from these things. I would just like to, if you would wait, please 1 moment. I just want to go to the bathroom for 1 moment, and I will be right back. Be right back. Excuse me. Okay, so that's what Rabbi Akiva is saying, that keep away from these very common things which are being lightheaded and being frivolous. But he did not want to say what is a fence around chastity, namely that you should have to be very serious and have fear of God, because that's not in the ability for everyone. He's trying to give us common advice. All right, next he says, now we're starting with offenses. Mesorah, the teachings of the rabbis, that is a sayeg, it is a fence for the Torah. HaTorah Shebal Peh, the oral Torah, the Mishnah, Midrash, Talmud, Shenimsara Midor LaDor, which was given from generation to generation, Harihi Sayeg, this is a fence, namely a gader. A gader means like a wall. The Torah Shebechtav, to the written Torah. Shekein Biladaya Mesorah, because if it wasn't for the rabbinical teachings, Lo Hayinu Mevinim et Pirush Torah, you couldn't understand what the Torah means, and its laws. Vayatoa Torah Domeh Lekerem Beli Geder V'Sayeg. It would be like a vineyard with no fence around it. Shekol Echad Hayanoeg Bo Ke Behefker. Everyone would be able to do whatever he wanted to with the fruits. Lebaro, Lepersha, Katol Beinav, to explain it however he wants to. Yesh Meforshim, some people say, Mesorat, what is Mesorat? Mesorat, it means Shemasru Lanu Chachamim Bechaserot V'Yaserot B'Torah. This means the Mesorat means how to read the written Torah, how to read the words in the written Torah. Right? The Torah hasn't got any vowels in it, so sometimes things and sometimes words can be written without a vav or without a yud, and you'll know that vav should be written como mezuzot. Sometimes mezuzot is written mezuzat. Right? It's missing a vav. That's called chaser, but you're supposed to read it mezuzot. Right? And the same thing with the letter Yud. Sometimes it says, what was an example? Anyway, sometimes a word is written, banim, and it's just with banam. So it could be his son. Banim means sons. So you have to know what is the Mesorah. That is a fence around the Torah. You know how to read it properly. Sayeg the Torah, Shabli Mesorah, because if you don't know how to pronounce the words and what is full and what is empty, as uminyan atevos, and also the numbers of words and the letters which are in the Torah, that the balim mosros, zoya Torah asuya harbe Torah, then you have a lot of different Torahs. Everyone would explain things however they wanted to, lefi shino nuschot, because there would be different versions of the Torah, v'girsotayim, and how they receive them, mitchalfot, which can be exchanged one the other. There's one that's very famous. There's a couple that are very famous. Like it says that man made katnot or, that it says that after Adam ate from the tree, so they made garments of or. Sometimes there's one version that says with an ayin and some with an aleph. The call mavin haya magia umataken lefi rotenav, and everyone would change the Torah however he wanted to, because the Torah has to be written down, right? You have to have a scribe. That's basically what happened in the prayer books. And the Alter Rebbe, the first Rebbe of Chabad, it said he took, 60 different versions of the same prayer book, right? Of the same prayers. And each one of them was different. And he had to arrange according to the Talmud and according to the Arizal, right? What was the proper one? Because every printing house, when they would print usually printing houses were owned by people who were very literate, and they would know what was going on. They would stick in their own prayers and things. So in the prayers, it's not that important, right, how you say or what you say. It's important, but not as important as the Torah is. So therefore, it's very important to have an exact version of the Torah and to have an exact understanding of what those words mean and the ideas of the Torah. B'zichut masrot. Okay, so next one. Masrot sayeg la'osher. By giving 10% of your wealth to charity, that protects your wealth. Because of the maisrot, it can be also 1/10 of your income, your riches, or 1/10 of your produce from your field. This protects the rest which you remain for yourself. Who shomer lo letovato, this protects the person, like it says, aser ta'aser. It says you should give 1/10 a 1/10. And they explain, Dorsha and the Gemara and Tainis, aser, take a meiser, bishvil, in order shetit asher, same letters, in order that you should become rich. Aser means 10, and asher means to be rich. V'kein Omer, and also says in the Midrash, im re'ita adam afazer mosav l'tzedakah. If you see a person giving money to charity, haviyudei should know shehu mosif, that he's not really losing, he is increasing. Like it says, yesh mefazer v'mosif od. There are those, it says in Proverbs, that it's possible to throw away what you have and increase. And that's the example of charity. The Kain Kasuv, and it also says, Veheviu et kol ha'maser el beita utzer. Ubechanuni na bezot, it says in the Malachi, one of the prophets, it's that God says that they brought all of their meiser, their tithes, to the storehouse, and God says, "Ubechanuni na bezot amar Hashem tzavot." You can test me with this. Im lo eftach lachem et arubot hashamayim. It was by means of giving charity, you can test me and see if I won't pay you back. I'll open up the storehouses of heaven, varikosi lachem bracha, and I will pour out for you blessings, ad beli dai, without any end. So in other words, giving charity is a fence around riches. So what do we say? The words of the rabbis are a fence around the Torah. Giving charity is a fence around your riches. Nedarim, making vows, sayeg leprishut, is a fence around, how do you say, what's the word? Prishut, to be, what do you call it? Modesty. Modesty. There must be a better word than that. Modesty, to be proper, maybe. To be propriety, to be proper. To be a good person. Making vows. Precious, the word precious merely means to separate, but it means to separate from bad things. How is it you want to separate yourself from bad things? Make vows. Like I told you before. When a person wants to start controlling himself, this is precious means self-control. Vows are a fence for self-control. That's the way to say it. When a person wants to start controlling himself, that he wants to be strict with himself, and he wants to control himself even in permissible things. Right? He eats too much, he drinks too much, laughs too much. These are things that are permissible, that's okay, but he overdoes it. He says, I'm going to control myself. So he wants to control himself in permissible things that won't eventually bring him to do forbidden things. If he's afraid, he's afraid that maybe his Yetzer Hora will overpower him. Because what happens? How does it work? A person, let's say, he enjoys telling jokes. Nothing wrong with telling jokes, but he enjoys telling jokes. So he tells jokes and he goes overboard, but it's okay. It's okay. He sits and he learns Torah, but every time he has to tell a joke. So he says, listen, I'm going overboard with this. What does it mean he's going overboard? He's starting to live for his own pleasure. I enjoy it. Why shouldn't I do it? If that's the way you're going to live your life, then there's going to be things maybe that are going to be forbidden, and you really enjoy it. Why shouldn't I do it? So he feels, listen, I got to stop this thing from the beginning. I'm not going to do things just because I like them. Right? I realize it's getting out of control. Therefore, I want to control myself. Make a vow. I swear I am not going to do any more jokes. By means of this, he will conquer his Yetzer Hora, his selfish impulses. And he will be able to control himself. What does it mean? Anytime now he wants to tell a joke, he'll remember, I remember in that moment of clarity I had, I swore, especially a swear to God. Now, you shouldn't do this. Don't do it. Because you're not supposed to make these oaths nowadays. But this is just what it says here. We're going to learn about this in a second. Every time he says, I'm now going to make a joke, he says, whoa, I'm wondering, I remember that vow that I took to Hashem, and that gives you power. This, by the way, is how the Tanya starts off. Mashbiim oto te'etzadik balti Russia, that God administers you an oath, administers the soul an oath, and this gives the soul power to be a tzaddik, not to be. It's explained in great length. What's this idea of giving an oath? Nevertheless, oaths definitely give you power to go above your nature, to defy your nature. But this is talking about what? A person who's like a tzaddik, or he wants to be a big chassid. But in an ordinary person, tov shelo yidor klal. Don't make any vows. Not a good thing. Shekein kasher yidor, because when a person makes a vow, l'kayim is a mitzvah that he swears, I will do this commandment, or I will, but as yipatru yetzro, then as Yetzer Hora comes along, and all of a sudden he finds he must do it, right? He must do it. I swear I am not going to look at the Facebook today. I'm not going to, all of a sudden that day he finds himself, he spends more time than ever. What happened? Therefore, what should you do? Don't make vows. You went against a vow. You swore to God. It ends up that it's taking God's name in vain. But if a person knows that he wants to do self-control and he's done it before, so he should, then a vow will help him in this war. So therefore, it gives the advice to make a vow. You should say bli neder, and don't use God's name. You should say, I'm not going to smoke anymore, bli neder, without a vow. I'm not making a vow. Or you can say, I'm going to try to stop smoking from now on. Smoking is disgusting. I'm going to stop doing it. Okay, it doesn't work, but it helps. And this will strengthen a person in his self-control. Finally, the last one, chayav l'chachma shtika. And we're already getting to 4 o'clock, so I'll just say what he says over here. He says that too much talking about mundane things makes a person waste a lot of time and waste a lot of wisdom. Okay, in the Midrash Shmuel, why it asked the question, one second, why does it say here the word fence first? All the others it says, for instance, shtika sayig l'chachma, right? Silence is a fence for wisdom. Like it says, making vows is a fence for self-control. Giving charity is a fence for your riches. It says what to do first, and then after that it says that do this thing and it will be a fence. Here it doesn't say that. Here it says the fence for wisdom is keeping quiet. It says why? Because he wants to tell us here that the only fence, that's what he says. It says in this book of Midrash Shmuel, it says, it says, the fisha bolash meaning, because it's coming to teach us that the only fence that there is for wisdom is keeping quiet. Don't open your mouth so much. So therefore it says sayag, the fence for wisdom is keeping quiet. That's the only one is keeping quiet. And my teacher, Rabbi Mendel Futavas, he said to me that we'll see this is going to be later. It says, Kol Yomei Gadalti Min HaChachamim, that's in the beginning, I'm sorry, in chapter 1. Kol Yomei Gadalti Min HaChachamim, V'lo Matzati Shum Tov L'Guf Mishtika. He said, all of my life I grew up among the wise people and I never found any good came from keeping quiet. What does that mean? What does it mean? He says, because, like I told you before, if you have a negative feeling about somebody, it's not good to keep it in. You should talk to someone about it. If you have a problem, you should take a problem to somebody. Talk to a teacher. Talk to somebody. Right? Somebody wants to talk to you, wants to this, listen to the person and maybe give advice, give a positive word, say positive things, give encouragement to others. In that case, speaking is a very, very good thing. All right, one more. Let's do a little bit of basar v'chalav. Basar b'chalav, I'm sorry.